What famous person didn't deserve all the hate that they got? Macaulay Culkin. For Redditors old enough to remember, the young Home Alone star got a bunch of hate for being a spoiled brat when he sued to divorce his parents. Truth of the matter is his father was a physically abusive asshole, and his parents were going to take the $15 to $20 million he earned from acting and leave Macaulay with nothing. Salieri. Pretty chill dude. Mozart's biggest supporter. Lent him his librettista so he could write Figaro. Took care of Mozart's kid after he passed away. That's a damn good movie, though. But it also does him dirty as well. F. Murray Abraham fucking killed it though. Salieri was actually based. He has an opera which depicts an interracial marriage in a neutral light. He was in favor of abolition of slavery. He was the teacher of many famous composers, including Beethoven, Schubert and even Liszt. I love when I read a post on a fairly cultured topic but need to hit up Urban Dictionary to understand what it meant. The sign of a truly well-rounded modern person. I am being truly sincere. Ignaz Philipp Semmelweis. He was a Hungarian physician and scientist, described as the savior of mothers. He proposed the practice of washing hands with chlorinated lime solutions in 1847 while working in Vienna General Hospital's first obstetrical clinic, where doctors' wards had 3 times the mortality of midwives' wards. Some doctors were offended at the suggestion that they should wash their hands and mocked him for it. In 1865, he allegedly suffered a nervous breakdown and was committed to an asylum by his colleagues. In the asylum, he was beaten by the guards. He died 14 days later from a gangrenous wound on his right hand that may have been caused by the beating. His findings earned widespread acceptance only years after his death, when Louis Pasteur confirmed the germ theory. That was a sad case. He couldn't really prove the germs actually existed, but he had statistics to prove that mothers who gave birth with doctors who had washed their hands had a significantly higher chance of surviving, and the doctors were all so arrogant that they never even considered that his conclusion was right, but that maybe he got the details wrong, which he didn't. He got them right, but this would have been a reasonable way to be skeptical of his claims at the time. IMO. Close. Semmelweis noticed that there was a far greater rate of sepsis among women who delivered with a physician versus delivering with a midwife in the same facility. A salient difference was the physicians were often dicking around in the morgue between deliveries, likely coming into contact with people who died of sepsis because it was a pretty common way to die pre-ABX. Natasha Kampusch. She was kidnapped in Vienna/Austria on her way to school when she was 10 years old and held captive in a secret bunker for 8 years. She managed to escape and her abuser killed himself the same day. Sadly, the public seems to hate her because she refused to talk publicly about the details of her sexual abuse. She was 10 when kidnapped and escaped after 8 years. Thanks for the correction. Poor woman can't win either way. Whenever she does step in front of a camera, people are like, does she need money or just the attention? I really wish her the best because she already got robbed of her childhood. Yeah, and I think the larger issue was that she didn't act like the public thought a victim was supposed to. She appeared too intelligent, not broken enough. She took control of her own life. And I guess her awkward way of talking seemed off-putting. A bit uncanny to some people. So, too broken then? Damned if you do. Oh, and she dared write a book and profit off her experiences. Well, duh. It was a weird thing. She seems to have pushed through it all and has success in her life. She mentioned many times that people wanted her to be a victim and got annoyed when she didn't behave like one. She also got multiple emails from guys who wanted her to become their sex slave. Lindsay Lohan, overworked and pimped out by her parents. Was looking through the comments to see if Lindsay Lohan would be mentioned. Not to mention the disgusting behavior of the media and the public in regards to her addiction issues. That one David Letterman interview with her is almost unbearable to watch. She deserves a huge apology from the world. Tara Reid. She did not drive drunk. She did not kill anybody with her car. She did not get arrested. She partied a lot and her boob fell out. That's it. Also, if memory serves, she was treated horribly by Carson Daly. In the same vein, Janet Jackson after that Super Bowl. My first thought was, why is she taking all the heat when JT clearing seeing ripping off parts of her outfit? A dingo ate me baby. Parents of Azaria were ridiculed and hounded by the press, and the grieving mother's statement became a pop culture reference. They were accused of murdering their child. Many years later it was finally proven that a dingo had, in fact, eaten their baby. Lindsay Chamberlain was, in fact, found guilty of murdering her child and sent to jail for a number of years. Her conviction was overturned, and it's now accepted that a dingo was responsible. However, jokes about it are still made. I can't imagine how awful it must be to have the world laugh for decades over your child's horrific death. Lindy not Lindsay. On top of the tragic loss and false imprisonment, being the butt of jokes would push someone to madness. In Australia, Lindy Chamberlain and her family went through so much terrible stuff because of this, think Casey Anthony. Except convicted. And wrongly. That Seinfeld jokes were the least of her issues to deal with. Amanda Knox said it didn't help that she was known as a Foxy Noxy by the media, since it fueled the prosecution's case that she was party girl foreign student into group sex. But that nickname was nothing compared to her actual wrongful imprisonment. I definitely partly blame Seinfeld for that. That's where I first heard the joke, and it got spread around a ton here because of that episode. Everyone, I know what the joke was about. You can stop commenting that. I was just saying that because they said that exact line. Everyone around me thought that was what it was referring to, and they took on making fun of what happened to that poor woman. They even attacked the poor McDonald's coffee lady. I remember we argued that in mock trial back in school. When I read the actual details of the incident, I couldn't believe that there actually was a legitimate case there. That it wasn't some greedy ambulance-chasing scumbag trying to bilk a corporation for millions of dollars. Lady spills her coffee, sues McDonald's, was such a deliberately misleading headline. I came to find that most of those lawsuits from the 90s with an outrageous one-sentence headline turned out to be extremely misleading, just perpetuating this idea that greedy Americans trying to bilk corporations with frivolous lawsuits was some giant epidemic. The news should have been required to tell all of America the words, fused labia, to curb the bullshit. I can only imagine how devastating it would be to have so many people think that you killed your own baby. The evidence presented for it was weak and insufficient. And it was a case of people convicting on the basis of emotion rather than fact. The ridiculous claims in the press about it were awful too. I can only imagine how devastating it would be to have so many people think that you killed your own baby. This happened to the Eisenberg family 20 years ago. The police became obsessed with proving their guilt, including planting bugs in their home. And filing sworn statements in court about them, confessing that their cocaine usage made them do it, but the audio was pure gibberish/mumbling. Federal prosecutors repeated their claim Wednesday that Steven Eisenberg admitted to cocaine use, in a secret recording investigators made. Okay, after reading some comments, I decided to look into it once again, and the few sources I had read about years ago have now been proven wrong. I found this out today, so I've been carrying a falsehood for years. I ask for forgiveness from everybody, as Edgar Allan Poe did just marry his underage cousin just for the sake of marrying her. Or more accurately, their relationship is debated but leans more on the side of him doing the latter. Yeah, it was basically a way for him to adopt her. The complete and polar opposite of Ted Nugent, basically. Oedipus. He didn't know it was his mother until after he had slept with her. Then he blinded himself because he was so disgusted by what he'd done. But thanks to Freud, everyone associates him with wanting to bone your mother. Not fair, I always felt bad for him. Not fair, I always felt bad for him. Known as one of the classic tragedies for a reason, still effective to this day. Big overarching theme of not trying to escape/outwit your fate though, that's their sin in many of these. Yep. Freud is the opposite case though. Far too appreciated for what he did. Yep. Freud is the opposite case though. Far too appreciated for what he did. I'm convinced that Freud only got two things right. 1. Freud really liked his mom. 2. Freud really liked cocaine. All the child stars that went off the rails. They didn't ask for fame. Elijah Wood turned out okay, 'cause his mom refused to let him attend Hollywood parties and hang out with adults. Back in the day, the executives would have parties just for the child stars, attended by kids, executives, and no parents. It was essentially a pedo meat market, and the Hollywood parents knew what was up. They were pimping out their kids. Elijah says his mom made sure to keep him the hell away from all that. Back in the day, the executives would have parties just for the child stars, attended by kids. Oh, that sounds nice. Give them a chance to be kids with their peers. Executives and no parents. Oh. The guy who played Kid Anakin. He was bullied so hard that it ruined all the love he had for Star Wars. Ruined all the love he had for Star Wars is nothing compared to him becoming depressed and a drug addict, getting arrested several times, and I'm pretty sure the dude tried to end his life a few times. He seems to be doing better now but is still recovering from everything, over 2 decades later. He developed paranoid schizophrenia and has been institutionalized most of his adult life. All of the Star Wars actors post the originals. Ahmed Best nearly committed suicide, Hayden Christensen left acting. John Boyega is only recently coming to terms with his role as Finn, and I'm not even sure what happened with Daisy Ridley. John Boyega is only recently coming to terms with his role as Finn. Boyega's big issue is the way Disney hyped up Finn, then basically sidelined the character. One of my biggest gripes with the new series. He seemed like he was going to be so interesting, and then they made him the butt end of all the jokes. Seriously, the main characters in Force Awakens had so much potential and had great arcs just in the movie itself. Rey's realization that she has people who give a shit about her and will come back. Finn discovering something to care about beyond himself, initially just his friends and eventually the rebellion as a whole. And Pa, while underutilized, had great chemistry with Finn for the short time they were together. Daisy Ridley has been in a few famous things other than Star Wars and has like 4 things coming out this year alone, some of which have a big name behind them. Seems to have done better than the others listed. Adam Driver is huge too. I know the guy you're responding to mentioned Boyega, but I think in general the bullying and excessive hate circle **king that went on was a lot more intense for the prequels, during that era. I know Daisy and the sequels get their fair share of hate, but it was just sort of cultural consensus in the 2000s that Hayden Christensen was a POS bad actor, who single-handedly ruined Star Wars. Just a different level of intensity. If you go look up Adam's SNL stuff, it is absolute black gold. I outlived you, H.R. Pickens. I crushed you into the ground, and now your bones turn to oil beneath my living feet. I married your granddaughter, filled her belly with my festering seed, and sired a boy. Laura Bailey is one that springs to mind. For playing the character of Abby in The Last of Us Part 2, she was getting death threats when the game came out for playing a character that did something people didn't like. It's honestly crazy that people were full-on threatening her and her newborn child with death for playing a character. It takes a sick person to threaten to kill her and her child for something a fictional character did. People need to grow up. Rob Pilatus and Fab Morvan. They weren't told until after they had already signed the contracts and spent an advance from the record label on new clothes and hair extensions for their promo shoots that they wouldn't be singing on the album. They couldn't afford to pay back the advance, so they said they would stick with the label until they made enough money to pay them back. When the lip-sync scandal went down, they got all the blame for it. Y'all probably too young to remember when Keanu Reeves was a late-night punchline for years. In the 90s, every reference to the man was about how stupid he seemed. That's because of his Bill and Ted days. He once played Hamlet in Winnipeg. There's a scene in Hamlet where he meets his friends, Guildenstern and Rosencrantz, and calls them "my good and excellent friends." When Keanu Reeves uttered that line on stage, the entire audience laughed. And because of his British accent in Bram Stoker's Dracula. Basically, he did Bill and Ted in 1989, and then everyone acted like he was Ted for like a decade for some reason. I think the turnaround started at least around the time The Matrix came out, since that was such a huge hit and became a cultural icon. Don't sleep on Speed. It was huge when it came out. It was 5 years before The Matrix, and it definitely helped turn around his image. Point Break was 91, also another classic from Keanu. Corey Feldman over his comments about childhood sexual abuse in Hollywood. Barbara Walters treated him like shit and basically told the world he was a liar. You're ruining an entire industry. No, Barbara, the pedophiles are the ones in the wrong. You're ruining an entire industry. As if it wasn't already doing so by itself. Reminds me of Bill Burr making jokes about the Catholic Church raping kids, then went on a news show where the anchors asked him, "Don't you think you went a little too far with the jokes?" And he responds, "Don't you think the Catholic Church went too far?" Or Norm Macdonald on people talking about Bill Cosby. The worst part is the hypocrisy. Really? For me, the worst part is the raping. Hayden Christensen, who played Anakin and the child actor of Anakin. They both got so much hate, and I still don't get why. Paris Hilton's ex sold revenge porn to a legit publisher and got away with it. She somehow got treated as if she was responsible. Same goes for Pamela Anderson. Imagine someone breaking into your house, stealing your home videos and putting them on YouTube for the world to see. Then people accused her of planting the tape for her career advancement, when she already had a great career going at the time. Rebecca Black got roasted hard at 14 years old for the song Friday. Patrice Wilson was the producer and got paid by both Black's mom and a good chunk of the proceeds, but he flew under the radar from the abuse. Granted, it's a dumb song. But the hatred was immense for a 14-year-old kid. The song looked like it was something made for $2,000 by a cut-rate music studio for a peppy Southern California teenager, to be posted for free on YouTube. And that's exactly what it was. There was no more reason to take it seriously enough to warrant any negative opinion of Rebecca Black than there would be to get angry over a kid's refrigerator paintings. Getting angry at a kid's refrigerator paintings would be on brand for internet culture. Wild Wolf Woman. OP. She's actually the person I had in mind when I posted this. I agree 100% that she didn't deserve all that hate. She was just a teenage kid doing something fun and creative. It's so awesome that she managed to persevere though. Her new songs are actually pretty darn good, and I usually don't like pop. Honestly, Britney Spears. The way we treated her after the breakdown is downright sad. The fact that more people don't crack under the pressure she was going through baffles me. Imagine your life is televised almost 24/7 and you couldn't even feel sure that you had privacy in your own home. Not even gonna get into the conservatorship. We really did her dirty. Regardless of what you think about the music, she deserved and deserves to be treated with more respect than she got. I'll always respect Craig Ferguson for defending her after all she was going through in 2007, during one of his monologues on The Late Late Show when so many other late-night hosts and comedians were going after the low-hanging fruit, and making jokes about her when she clearly wasn't well. Thanks for watching this video. Hit the bell next to subscribe so you never miss a video. Like, comment and subscribe if you are new on the channel.